Welcome to Krunch Time, milestones and mayhem in history. Alright, it's Krunch Time for June the 17th. On this day in 1977, Kiss released their 6th studio album, Love Gun. The album would simultaneously be certified gold and platinum by the RIAA on June the 30th. That was also the same day that Casablanca submitted their copyright registration paperwork for the album. In early April 1977, Kiss had returned from their successful tour of Japan. Rehearsals were scheduled to commence at Star Sound Studios on May the 2nd. The new stage show had been partially tested during the Japan tour, and with new costuming, the classic era was defined with this album, becoming the visually and sonically memorable representation of the band at their height of popularity, the one that was specifically revisited in 1996 for the reunion. Eddie Kramer was engaged to record the album. According to Gene, the band didn't want to stray too much from the sound they had established within the musical market. The initial plan was for the group to follow a similar methodology as on Rock and Roll Over, and a repurposed former Convent, the Cenacle near Armonk, New York, was booked May the 9th through the 27th. This was the same location that Aerosmith were using while struggling with their sessions for the Draw the Line album. Delays resulted in a change of plans for Kiss. Love Gun was the final Kiss album of the classic original era recorded by all the band members on the majority of tracks, though there were also uncredited additional players. More importantly, it was also the first Kiss album to include all the original members on lead vocals. Ace Frehley made his long-awaited vocal debut on Shock Me in the studio, and later live on tour as the setup for his guitar solo. In May 1977, Eddie had presented his recording budget to Allcoin Management for the album. The $94,000 included additional backing vocalists and a 12-piece string ensemble, elements of which can be heard on the album. The Kissettes, comprised of Tasha Thomas, Ray Simpson, and Hilda Harris, were hired to sweeten the backing vocals. They'd been used the previous year too. The band members had plenty of material by the time they were ready to record. Peter brought in Hooligan and Love Bite, both with demos that he'd recorded at the record plant in early 1977 with longtime collaborator Stan Penridge. Having not brought any material to the sessions for the previous album, Ace also brought in 2 demos. Rocket Ride was discarded at the time, but the other, inspired by Ace's electrocution at the beginning of a show in Lakeland, Florida in December 1976, was perfect in form and substance. Still nervous about singing, Ace resorted to lying on his back on the floor of the studio with the lights lowered so that he could sing unobserved. Gene, as usual, had a plethora of material ready for use, be it actually new songs or recycled and reworked material from the past. The most important material would be the demos he'd recorded with the then unknown Van Halen brothers, Alex and Edward. Of those 3 songs, Christine 16 and Have Love Will Travel, which became Got Love for Sale, were used. Gene also played some rhythm guitar on Christine 16 and added the Jerry Lee Lewis-style triad piano part. Session musician Jimmy Malin played congas on another of Gene's character songs, Almost Human. Paul, as ever, arrived with a complement of fully developed up-tempo rockers, continuing to illustrate his run during this period of consistency and confidence in songcraft. One song, Sincerely, that had been mentioned in the spring 1977 Kiss Army newsletter, was ultimately dropped for the album, or perhaps renamed. Instead, a cover of the Crystals' 1963 hit, Then She Kissed Me, concluded the album. Kiss had to rework the lyrics to change the gender perspective of the song. Teen idol Sean Cassidy had released a cover of Do Ron Ron in March, and by then it was on its way to hitting number 1 on the Billboard charts. So why not take a chance with another Phil Spector hit? On some proof printing copies of the Love Gun cover, a track with the title See You Baby appears in place of what would later be Then She Kissed Me. This prospective song remains a mystery. By June the 20th, the band were at Star Sound Studios in New York City rehearsing for the tour. Final production rehearsals for the tour were held at Hangar E at Stewart Airport in Newburgh, New York. By June the 27th, the prospective set list included Hooligan, Love Gun, Got Love for Sale, Christine 16, I Stole Your Love, and Shock Me from the album, leaving just 3 pre-Alive songs in the set. Rumors of Almost Human being performed at the tour's first show persist, but no evidence yet exists to support that assertion. Certainly by the time of the first confirmed tour set on July the 12th, the only difference from that prospective set is the lack of Got Love for Sale. Perhaps it was simply a matter of too much material from the new album being present. Internal audits at Casablanca suggest that the album had shipped 1.25 million copies by December 1977 and 1.9 million by June 1979. SoundScan sales since 1991 push it well over the 2 million unit mark. In the US, the album reached the highest position of any Kiss album of the classic era, reaching number 4 on the Billboard Top 200 on July the 30th during its 25-week chart run. What's your favorite song from Love Gun? Answer in the comments.